In this video, I'm going to show you 10 must-have Google Chrome extensions for students. I'm going to focus primarily on extensions that make learning more accessible. So I'll show you extensions that can support students with text-to-speech and speech-to-text, as well as extensions that support students with their writing and make reading more accessible. So I'm excited to show you all the extensions that I've put together for you in this video. My name is Sam Carey, and this is my YouTube channel for the New Ed Tech Classroom. Before we get started here, it is important to note that oftentimes students are going to be blocked from adding Google Chrome extensions themselves. So if you see an extension in this video that you think would be beneficial for your students, you may have to request that your tech team or your school administrator pushes those extensions out to student browsers, because it's likely that those students will not be able to install them on their own. The extensions I'm going to show you are all available to download for free in the Google Chrome Web Store. So let's hop over there now so that we can check them out. All right, so here we are in the Chrome Web Store, and on the Web Store, you'll see that there are a ton of different extensions that you can install on your browser. I actually have a whole separate updated video all about Google Chrome extensions for teachers. So if you're looking for those, I would recommend you check that out too. Now, what I'm going to show in this video will involve actually downloading the extension and installing it on a browser. But like I mentioned, you can also have your school's admin team actually just push those extensions out to all student browsers in bulk, so that when a student opens up their Google Chrome account, they'll just have the browser extension already installed, which is a great way to do it, particularly if you have found a tool that you really think is going to support your students with their learning. All right, so the first must-have Google Chrome extension for students is Read and Write. So to find it, I'm going to search Read and Write. And then once I've found that extension, I'll go ahead here and click Add to Chrome. Now, once students have this extension installed, what they'll be able to do is open it up on any web page and have that web page be read aloud to them. So let's say, for example, that we're over here on this article about Nelson Mandela that you want your students to read. Now, there might be some times where you either have students who are reading a little bit below grade level, or when you want to assign students a more complex article and they need some assistance in making sense of what that article is saying. So the Read and Write extension would be really useful here. All students would need to do is click on it, select the part of the text where they want the read aloud to begin, and then click play. Although it does read the text aloud to them in a robotic voice, it's not all that bad, and it's a very useful tool for students who are having some difficulty reading the text on their own. There are lots of useful premium features in Read and Write as well. So for example, you can have students use the voice to text tool here. And let's say that a student needs to be able to speak what they want to be typed out on this Google Doc. All they would need to do is hit the microphone, say what they want to be typed, and it will automatically detect that and type it for them. Now, I know that I'm showing this in Google Docs and that Google Docs already has a voice typer, but what the Read and Write extension will allow students to do if you have the premium version is use speech to text on any website. Let's say that you don't want to pay for Read and Write, but you do still want to give students the ability to use this speech to text feature. That brings me to my second must-have Chrome extension for students, and that's Voice-In. Voice-In works very similar to what I just showed you for Read and Write. So let's jump over here to this demo student account so I can show you how Voice-In would work with Gmail. In order to enable Voice-In so that it starts to read what a student is saying, all they need to do is click on the Voice-In extension. Then they'll want to click wherever they want their typing to go on the screen, dictate what they need to be typed out, and then you'll see that it's interpreting what they said and that the text will show up. The third extension for students is Google Dictionary. Google Dictionary is a simple extension that does exactly what you would think it would do and allows students to look up the meanings of words on any web page. What I like about Google Dictionary is that students don't even need to necessarily type the word into the search bar. All they need to do is highlight a word that they want to look up and then go up to the Google Dictionary extension and it will automatically pull up a definition of that word. Power Thesaurus is a related extension. The only difference with Google Dictionary is that when students use Power Thesaurus to look up a synonym or antonym, they will need to either copy and paste the word that they want to find a synonym or antonym for into the Power Thesaurus search box, or they'll need to type it directly in. Still, Power Thesaurus can be a handy tool for supporting students with writing and adding more variety to the words that they're choosing to use. The fifth Chrome extension for students is Visor. Visor is a reading accessibility tool that supports students with focusing on just the part of the screen that they're actually reading. So the way that it works is that when a student is on a web page that they need to read, they can open up the Visor extension, and that will give them some different options for how they can minimize the area of the screen that is highlighted for them to focus on. They can do things like adjust the color saturation, and they can also adjust the size of the focus window that shows up on the screen. So now you can see that as a student is scrolling down the page to read it, that a small window shows up that will help focus their attention on the specific part of the screen where they need to be reading. The next extension, Mercury Reader, is also a reading accessibility tool. But rather than put a small window over the screen, what Mercury Reader will do is take away some of the distracting elements that might show up on a web page. So you can see over here on this National Geographic web page that there are lots of advertisements and images that might be distracting for students. So what a student can do is open up the Mercury Reader extension, and that will take away all those distracting elements and just focus in on the words so that they're able to focus better on what they need to be reading. And you can see here as well that students can also adjust the size of the text so they can make it bigger if they need to be able to see it better. And they can also switch it from light to dark mode if they need more of a contrast. The next extension I'm going to show you here is Grammarly for Chrome. Once the extension is installed, students can use it to check the grammar, punctuation, and spelling of their writing across different websites. All right, so now that I have the extension installed, let's just jump over here to Google Docs so that we can see what it looks like. You can see that there's a little icon at the bottom of this student's Google Doc that indicates that the Grammarly extension has been installed. And in this case, it's also indicating the number of errors that Grammarly has found on this document. So one option would be for students to just hover over the word and then select the correct spelling of the word. Or they could click on the number 2, and that will pull up a sidebar menu that will give students more options for what they could ask Grammarly to look at on their writing. Now, in this case, Grammarly found those 2 spelling errors. So here you'll see that the student could also correct those errors from here as well. Now, of course, Google Docs also has an embedded spell checker, so it's not like it's doing anything particularly different in this case. However, I do like the way that the Grammarly extension looks on Google Docs. It's just a little bit easier to use. And of course, Grammarly will also work on other websites that students visit. The 8th extension is Awesome Screenshot. Of course, screenshotting is something that doesn't require an extension, but Awesome Screenshot does have some functions that make it superior to regular screenshotting. And I do think that it can be a really useful tool. The way Awesome Screenshot works is that students would go to a page where they needed to take a screenshot, and then they would have the option to either take a screenshot of the entire page or a particular section that they select on a page. So let's say, for example, that the student doesn't necessarily need to show this entire screen, but just wants to share the cover for this digital book that they made. They could select just that particular section and then take a screenshot. Now, of course, up to this point, that's not any different than just having students use keyboard shortcuts. But of course, it is easy to just open up that extension. And then once they've created the screenshot, they have lots of different options for ways they can interact with it. So they can do things like draw or add text directly on top of that screenshot. And then if you have students upload the screenshot, they'll be given access to a shareable link that they could share directly back with their teacher. And once the teacher opens the link, you'll see that there's a comment tool directly embedded in Awesome Screenshot. So as the teacher, you'd be able to click anywhere on this screenshot and then leave students a comment. So it's a really quick and easy way to annotate student work, Students can see your comment and then reply as well. The ninth must-have Chrome extension for students is Kami. Now, full transparency here, Kami is going to work best if you have the pro version, but the trial period that Kami offers of over 2 months is also quite a long period of time, so you could check it out for a while with your students to see how you like it. Kami is a PDF annotation tool, and you'll see that once they have it installed, they can do things like open up assignments directly in Google Classroom using the Kami tool. And once they've opened up a PDF, they'll have lots of different ways that they can interact with the document that you just assigned to them. So students can do more traditional annotations like using a text comment here, but they can also do things like add voice notes to a PDF document. And then, of course, if you as the teacher also have Kami installed, you can interact with this document using those same tools as well. So it can be a dynamic way of providing students with feedback and engaging them in a discussion about the work that they're doing. The 10th must-have Chrome extension for students is Loom. Now, to be honest, it doesn't matter all that much whether or not students have Loom or Screencastify installed on their browsers, but I do think it's important that they learn how to use a screencast tool. The reason for this is that screencasting can be a really powerful way for students to show their work, to explain their thinking, or to show you a problem that they might be having on their computer. What I do like about Loom and why I've come to prefer it is that the pro version is free for educational purposes, so both students and teachers can access the pro version of Loom for free. I have a separate tutorial for teachers on this channel about how to use Loom, and I also have a student tutorial about how to use Loom on my new EdTech Classroom tutorials for students channel, and I'll include that in the video description below as well. I hope you found this list of Chrome extensions for students helpful. I know that there are some barriers for getting Chrome extensions installed on student browsers, but I also think there's a strong case that you can make for why these extensions help make learning more accessible for students. If you have any questions about the extensions that I showed or suggestions about other Chrome extensions that you think would benefit students, please share those in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching my video to the end. If you're a school leader looking to implement a strategic technology integration plan, I'd love to talk with you about how I can help. And I've included a link to newedtechschool.com in the video description below, where you can book a free strategy session with me. And if you're a teacher interested in additional guidance for how to effectively use education technology in your classroom, I've also included a link for you to be able to book a call with me so we can discuss how I might be able to help. And lastly, if you're interested in my 21st Century Classroom course, I've also included a link in the video description where you can enter your email and get the latest enrollment updates. Thanks so much and have a great week.